See, students, other day we discussed the types of disasters, which included geophysical disaster, natural disasters and man-made disasters. So in geophysical study, we studied geological and atmospheric. In natural disasters, which are of animal origin and plant origin, and man-made, which include everything other than these. Students, one thing, today we'll be discussing the effects of disasters. Let me clear. There are in this particular topic there are many charts to study. There are many questions which are called as can you tell, and I'll be giving those answers once the lockdown is over. Don't worry. I'll teach you the next paragraph now. What are the effects of disasters, students? If you look around you, what are the effects you observe here? Effects of disasters are, first of all, flooding or collapsing of bridges, flooding of coastal villages, scarcity of food are the main effects of floods. I'll repeat. Collapsing of bridges, flooding of coastal villages and scarcity or lack of food are the main effects of floods. Next, collapsing of houses or buildings. Collapsing of houses or buildings, cracking of roads are the main effects of earthquake. You should mention them properly. Are the main effects of earthquake. Next, forest fire. Forest fire causes a huge effect on the environment because it's a type of pollution, students. So these are the effects of disasters. But the point is, what is the scope and gravity? What is the gravity of this disaster? Gravity म्हणजे काय? The depth. Disaster, how long it is, how far its effect will go and all that. Like for example, let me tell you like this. Some disasters, before occurring, they produce some symptoms. Okay, so some symptoms come in nature before the effects of before a disaster is going to occur. Like for example, birds automatically start flying helter and skelter. Anywhere they fly off, they are in confused position, which shows that there is some disaster going to occur. Next, occurrence of disaster is one thing like that. But always it has been a surprise and it causes a huge harm to the society. One thing. Next thing is that the disaster is directly proportional to economy. Means what does it mean? Disaster is directly related to economy means what? If any part is damaged, any city, any part of village is damaged, then large amount of money and time is required to reconstruct it. This is called as economic loss. One thing. Students, then if there is no social leadership, if the local leadership is not good, म्हणजे गव्हर्नमेंट किंवा लोकल तुमचे जे नगरसेवक असतात आणि हे ते जर वेल प्रिपेअर्ड नसतील, then citizens are under confusion to operate to participate in the search and rescue operation. मुलांनो, जर आपल्याकडे फायर ब्रिगेड नसेल प्रॉपर टाइमवर, कुठलाही डिझास्टर घडतो किंवा ॲम्ब्युलन्सेस नसतील किंवा आणि काय फॅसिलिटीज नसतील जे रिक्वायरमेंट आहेत, दॅट टाइम citizens are confused. Citizens are unable to participate in the rescue and rehabilitation programs. Okay, and there are a large amount of administrative damages caused. Administration damage म्हणजे समजा एका गावात जर ते गव्हर्नमेंटचं जे सरपंचांचं ऑफिसच जर डॅमेज झालं तर ते तरी काय करणार आहेत, असं होतं ते. I'll repeat what I said. The effects of disaster are as follows. Flooding of coastal villages, collapsing of bridges, lack of food are the effects of flood. Next, the cracking collapsing of houses and buildings, cracking of roads are the effects of earthquake. Next, then forest fire causes a huge effect on. आता ब्राझील मध्ये जे फॉरेस्ट फायर घडला, so that causes a huge harm to the environment, students. So what happens is there is a direct proportionality between disaster and economy. If some part is damaged or if some part is lost, a large amount of money and funds are required to reconstruct it, causing a economic loss to the particular governmental system. If there is no proper local leadership, citizens are under confusion की बाबा कोणाला जाऊन सपोर्ट करायचा आम्ही. They are unable to participate in search and rescue operations किंवा they are unable to participate in the reconstruction and rehabilitation program, and a lot of administrative loss is caused. Administrative blame is also caused here. हे झालं. मग खाली ना एक फ्लो चार्ट दिलाय, तो पाठ करायचा मुलांनो. जेवढे पॉइंट्स दिले तेवढे पाठ करा, बाकी ब्लँक्स मी तुम्हाला भरून देईन, नो प्रॉब्लेम. नेक्स्ट effects. Next page we are going to discuss effects and scope of disaster. What are the effects of and scope of disaster? The effects or scope of disaster can be categorized into a typical form, that is, first of all, pre-disaster phase, then warning phase, जे जनरली थ्रू कम्युनिकेशन मीडिया आपल्याला दिलं जातं. वॉर्निंग फेज हे प्री डिझास्टर फेज म्हणजे मेट्रोलॉजी मीन्स क्लायमेट स्टडी करून सायंटिस्ट सांगतात की बाबा ह्या वर्षी कदाचित पावसाचे एक्सेसिव्ह येऊन फ्लड्स येण्याची शक्यता आहे. वॉर्निंग फेज इज once some cyclone अचानक काइंड ऑफ अ सायक्लोन इज प्रोड्यूस्ड in the oceans and all, तर people warning दिली जाते. Then there is emergency phase. This is the most important phase here. Emergency phase. Then there is the rehabilitation phase. Then there is recovery phase. Then there is reconstruction phase. So the scope of disaster can be classified into the following phases. Phases म्हणजे parts or sections. They are pre-disaster, warning, emergency, rehabilitation, recovery and reconstruction phase. First of all, our interest lies in main. म्हणजे whenever you study the effects or the scope of disaster, it can be categorized into emergency phase, rehabilitation phase, and reconstruction phase. हे आपल्याला डिटेल मध्ये शिकायचे आहेत. बाकी सगळे they are small things, because always disaster has been a surprise, students. So if you want to study the scope of disaster, you can categorize it into three important levels, three important layers, that is emergency phase, rehabilitation phase and reconstruction phase. Concentrate. What is emergency phase? Emergency phase, here we come to know about the gravity of the disaster. Gravity म्हणजे डिझास्टरचा काय किती हाय लेवलचा डिझास्टर घडलाय, how high it is and what huge effect it has caused. That is emergency phase. So in emergency phase we come to know about the gravity of the disaster. First point. Second point is that the main intention, the main criteria of this phase is save as much as lives as possible through the quick operations. Okay, the main criteria of emergency phase is save as many lives as possible through quick actions. The quick actions include what? First of all, search and rescue operations. Search and rescue operation पहिला आला त्याच्यात. Then second is I'll repeat, emergency phase. Emergency phase helps us to understand the gravity of this phase, gravity of the disaster. म्हणजे डिझास्टर किती मोठा घडलाय, किती इफेक्ट करून आहे ते कळतं तुम्हाला. फर्स्ट पॉइंट. सेकंड, emergency phase, the main criteria is to save as many lives as possible through quick actions. The quick actions include search and rescue operation, giving medical assistance, giving first aid, giving first aid, restoring communication services. Restoring communication services अर्थ काय? टेलिफोन्स डॅमेज झालेले असतात किंवा काय असेल, रिस्टोरिंग कम्युनिकेशन सर्व्हिसेस आर द मेन क्रायटेरिया ऑफ दिस emergency phase. Okay, I'll repeat again. So what are the main criteria of the emergency phase? They include the quick actions such as search and rescue operation, then second medical assistance, first aid and restoring communication services as early as possible. That's it. म्हणजे emergency phase includes only saving maximum lives as possible, lives to save maximum lives. That is the only criteria of emergency phase. Then rehabilitation phase. What is rehabilitation phase? किंवा त्याला आपण ट्रान्झिशनल फेज पण म्हणतो. Transitional phase, rehabilitation is transitional phase. It's in textbook. It is given as transitional phase, students, which is rehabilitation. What does this transitional phase include? Rehabilitation, or restoration of the destroyed parts after once the disaster stops. Students, floods असो किंवा famine असो किंवा earthquakes असो, their occurrence is to a very high level. Their effect is the loss is to a very high level, but the effect is not long lasting. खूप वेळ राहत नाही तो फ्लड्स. आता फॉर एक्झाम्पल फ्लड्स हे एक वीक पुरती राहतात. मग वन्स द डिझास्टर रेसिड्स, म्हणजे डिझास्टर थांबल्यानंतर रिहॅबिलिटेशन वर्क विच इन्क्लूड्स रिमूव्हल ऑफ डेब्रीज. डेब्रीज म्हणजे तुटलेले फुटलेले डेड बॉडीज आणि काय ॲनिमल बॉडीज, हे सगळे काढणं. दॅट इज ट्रान्झिशनल फेज. वन थिंग, रिस्टोरेशन ऑफ वॉटर सप्लाय. पाणी तर लोकांना लागतं. रिस्टोरेशन ऑफ वॉटर सप्लाय, रिस्टोरेशन ऑफ इलेक्ट्रिसिटी सप्लाय आर द मेन कंडिशन ऑफ ट्रान्झिशनल फेज. नेक्स्ट, गिविंग, देर आर वेरियस ऑर्गनायझेशन्स, NGOs आर देर विच प्रोव्हाइड मॉनिटरी हेल्प. मॉनिटरी म्हणजे पैसा. दे प्रोव्हाइड मॉनिटरी किंवा फायनान्शियल हेल्प फॉर द rehabilitation programs. Students, if you help those victims come out of mental stress by giving them a permanent source of income, तर that will be the best aspect of transitional phase. म्हणजे जे victims आहेत, ज्यांचं सगळं लॉस झालेलं आहे, सगळी त्यांचे kith and kin have been dead, nobody is alive, that victim is left all alone. If you give him a permanent some work such as a permanent source of income, then that is the best way how to deal with this transitional phase. So what is the main criteria of transitional phase? That once the disaster goes away, once the disaster recedes, removal of debris, restoration of water supply, electricity supply, plus reconstruction of roads, and taking monetary help from the government and reducing the mental stress of the people by providing them with money and all that, because they have lost everything and all. Okay, and giving a permanent help, permanent source of income, permanent income, providing some source by which they can get a permanent income is the best criteria of this transitional phase. Next we have the last part, and that is the reconstructional phase. Now what is this reconstruction phase, students? A reconstruction phase begins itself with this transitional phase, म्हणजे restoring water supply, reconstructing the roads and all that. Once everything is, water supply comes into restoration, electricity is there and all, people start building their houses, then the farmers begin their process of farming and all that. But this takes a lot of time. Why it takes a lot of time? Because the economic loss and the loss produced by the nature's attack is very high. So this reconstructional phase, this is a very quick phase, Mulan. It's of short duration, but reconstruction phase takes a long time. It takes a long time. That's it. These are the phases here. So emergency phase main criteria is, it gives us the idea about the gravity of the disaster, the depth, the effect of the disaster. Next, the main criteria of emergency phase is to save as much lives as possible who are stuck or who are caught under that disaster. Transitional phase main criteria is restoring the emergency services like water supply, electricity supply, road construction and all that, and giving permanent source of income to the victims. The reconstruction phase, it depends on people mulano. Once everything has been re-established, people start living, the life comes back to normalcy in the reconstruction phase, where people start constructing their house, their lost houses, farming begins, roads begin, transportation begins and all that. Lives come to a routine, but that takes a lot of time. एवढंच सांगायचं आहे मला. ठीक आहे, that's it. So this is one. ठीक. Okay, for today we'll stop. You read it, students. I think by month of July, if it is possible, we will start with the regular classes. ठीक है, bye. Sure.